Many do not understand, do not have a single clue about the general attitude of the House of Mumbi towards the current Ruto administration. I'm sure you've heard it all over the place. You've heard people saying, oh, the people who voted for President Ruto are now the most dissatisfied. They are no longer supporting President Ruto. I'm sure you've heard people saying that. But if you stop them and ask them to elaborate, perhaps give you a little evidence, they'll not be able to. Yeah, so some people normally write it off as bar talk. People are just talking. This is Azimio people talking. However, the truth is, as you'll find out in this video, the truth is much deeper than that. And there are very good logical reasons, some of them which have nothing to do with President Ruto, which are causing the current situation. But let us start by asking a very clear, direct question. What is the current attitude, feeling of the House of Mumbi towards President William Samoei Ruto? Simple question. Can we get a simple answer? Now, before I answer that question very directly and in a simple manner, at least as simple as I can manage, I believe it is important to appreciate the fact that the House of Mumbi is probably the most complicated, difficult community in Kenya for any president to handle, including a president from that very community, as you saw very clearly towards the tail end of the Uhuru Kenyatta presidency. Now, the problem with most of us is that we're very quick to condemn. Yeah, you'll hear people saying, why? Why should they be so complicated? Why can't they be simple like other communities? Why? They're wrong. No, this is not right. That's what you'll hear people saying. However, remember when you say this, that everybody has a background. Everybody has where they're coming from. And for any meaningful human relationship, even intimate friendship, it is important to understand where your brother, where your sister is coming from. Because usually, hawana ubaya, it is just them. They can't help it. Yeah, believe it or not. And hey, even you, your community, is complicated. Every community has its own complications. Let me give you a very bad example. From my own father's community, the Kamba people. Because I want to emphasize that there are facts in this life you cannot change. So the best thing is to learn how to live with them. And always love your neighbor. Because everybody has got good points about them, and everybody has got the negative about them. We are human. Nobody's perfect. And therefore, if you approach relationships like this, then it makes everything much easier. Now, I need to warn you in advance. I'm going to be very blunt and direct, because I don't know how to do it any other way. You know, in the previous video, I revealed something about how the state has always controlled crime in Kenya. And somebody said to me, Chris, naona hii video yako latest, umepeana ukweli, alafu ukaenda mbele ya hiyo, ukaenda beyond, na ukatoa hiyo ukweli surali. Ukweli ambao umetolewa surali. Yeah, that is the naked truth. Now this example I'm going to give is going to be especially useful to young men who are looking to get a life partner, to get a wife. And you know, lasses from the Kamba community are very beautiful. It's very easy for you to get totally confused and you stop thinking. So this is a very useful tip that will really help you. By the way, we are still talking about politics and the House of Mumbi community in Kenyan politics. Yeah. So I don't want to lose you. But just to emphasize my point that we need to understand each other, I need to give the following example. And my sincere apologies in advance to all my dear subscribers, members of WIB, etc., etc., who are nice ladies who come from the Kamba community. Please forgive me. Right, here goes. There was this old wise man somewhere in Ukambani who was not happy that his dear daughter, the daughter he loved so much, was getting married in Luo Nyanza. And therefore he had an agenda. Okay? He had an agenda, yes, but what he spoke was the truth. So he used the truth to try and persuade the people who wanted to become his in-laws to change their minds. Well, he didn't succeed. But let me tell you what he said, because that's the story here. That's the point I want to bring forward. This old man said, as you want to marry my daughter, there's some information that you don't have that comes from our past, that is deep inside our community, that is part of our community. We, the Kamba people, this is the old man speaking, have something called Kidito. Kidito is an oath. For instance, when somebody goes and steals a cow somewhere, and then they strongly deny that they stole, the solution is very simple. You don't need a court of law. You don't need long discussions and debates. They simply take a Kidito oath, and they say in the oath that they're telling the truth. Now, in case they're not telling the truth, there will be dire consequences, which are greatly feared by the Akamba people. First of all, a chicken will die, and then a cow, and then a person. And at the end of it all, a whole homestead could be wiped out. Why? Because somebody took this oath and they were telling lies. Now, of course, there's no single mother in the whole world who would like a situation, or would be able to persevere a situation where they lose all their children, yeah, because of one of the children's silly mistake of telling a lie and taking the Kidito. And so in previous generations of the Kamba women, they came up with some wisdom to counter this problem, to ensure that if the worst came to the worst and somebody made this mistake, they would be left with at least one child. Yeah, and the solution was, mothers started telling their daughters when they got married that you're going to have a happy marriage. Be faithful to your husband, but make sure you get one child out of wedlock, a child who does not belong to your husband. Why? So that in case a Kidito oath is taken against your family, you'll at least have one surviving child. Because the child who is not from that homestead cannot be touched, yeah, by that oath. It has to do with blood. That was the story the old man gave. Now, for those of us who are spiritually sensitive, you'll immediately know that something like that affects every single woman of the community to this day. And therefore you'll hear to this day people saying, Kamba women are generous. Even married women are generous to other men. I'm sure you get exactly what they would mean when they say that. Yeah, they mean that women from this community are promiscuous. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this kind of behavior is excusable. No. It is against the laws of Almighty God. And I'm not saying that every single woman from the community is like that. No. There are circumstances which come into play. There are people who have self-discipline. There are people who have wisdom. And they do everything in their power to avoid certain situations. And there are people who are wise enough to know that I have this weakness. And therefore they do everything to avoid situations where that weakness of theirs will be tested. Yeah, so don't get me wrong. My point is, listening to that Mzee's very factual story about the community, you understand where Kamba women are coming from. And when you understand where they're coming from, knowledge is power. You're able to handle a relationship with much more wisdom with that information than if you're in a situation where you did not have that particular information. Now that I've used a very brutal, bad example, let's get back to the House of Mumbi. Yeah, but I think now it is crystal clear why a relationship, even in a country like ours, unity in diversity, we have so many communities, you need to accept your brother and sister from where they've come from and then meet somewhere in the middle ground, because they also have to accept you and where you're coming from. You also have your own evil, negative aspects because you're human. The House of Mumbi has had to survive through horrors. They've had to survive through situations where maybe other communities may not have survived. That is nothing but the truth. Hiyo ni ukweli ambao umetolewa surali, if I can put it like that. And because of that, survival is in their DNA. And because of that, sticking together and thinking like one mind, one brain, one person is critical for this community. Has always been critical for this community. And therefore has always been in the DNA of this community. Now once you understand that, you'll understand very clearly what the views, the feelings, or shall we say the mind of the House of Mumbi is towards the current president. And you'll also understand why there was so much animosity towards their own former President Uhuru Kenyatta, because he did one or two things within his policies which really got to the House of Mumbi. Yeah? And therefore it only required somebody to come and incite them, yeah, to completely turn them against their own. And of course it had to do with the money. Besha. You see, during the Uhuru Kenyatta administration, there was a lot of emphasis on fighting counterfeit products, fake products. And a lot of Kenyans who import container loads of all kinds of products into the country, majority of them are from the House of Mumbi. And therefore you have imported this container into the country. You have spent so much money, a fortune. It lands in Kenya. It is seized by the Kenya Bureau of Standards. And they declare that the goods are below standard. And that container is burnt to ashes. Now unfortunately, not many people were able to see what President Uhuru Kenyatta was trying to do. The greater good in ensuring that fake products do not land into the country. Products which are below standard, which only destroy our local industry. Yeah, that's the big picture. Now, unfortunately, many Kenyans were not able to see that very noble, long-term objective. Least of all, the House of Mumbi, who had relatives, friends, who had gone through the same nightmare. Therefore, that was the trigger that led the community to think as one mind that they were against President Uhuru Kenyatta. And another Kenyan who was very alert knew what was happening. And he took the opportunity with two hands plus legs and took full advantage of it. That is the story. Now the story with the current regime is that certain promises were made. Not only that, they were convinced that a lot of the problems they were passing through were because of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. And therefore they expected that immediately there was a change of regime, things will change. Things would change immediately. Now, of course, this is not humanly possible. And of course, this has not happened. And therefore, you know what to expect. You know what kind of reaction you'd get. Naturally, there's a backlash, which may be difficult to see for those people who approach politics casually, for those people who are not observant. Because somebody will shoot back at me and tell me, Chris, no, you're lying. All these Kikuyu leaders are fully in UDA. The deputy president is a member of the House of Mumbi. All these people are fully backing the current regime. Now I have a very simple answer to that question. We have seen this before, where the leaders are backing the regime, a section of the leaders. We saw it in the days of Moi, when you had people like J.J. Kamotho, who hailed from Murang'a and fully supported Moi. But that did not change the community and its thinking as one person that Moi had to go soonest. Did it? In fact, members of the House of Mumbi played a critical role, were at the forefront of the second liberation, which led to Moi leaving power, which also led to the fall of Kanu, and the rise of the opposition then. And therefore, this is the kind of backlash that the UD administration must be very wary about, because it is real. And I believe I've given enough concrete evidence to prove to you that it is real. And it is only a matter of time before all this comes out much more clearly to the public. Now, there's a video I produced earlier, a few years ago, that went very deep into why the Kikuyu community think and act the way they do. I'll put a link in the description area below. And I've also put a link on the top right hand corner at the tail end of this video. So please make sure you take it in if you want to totally understand Kenyan politics, especially where the House of Mumbi are concerned, because they play a critical role, and they'll continue to play a very critical role in our politics. Now finally, just a quick reminder, my offer is about to end. My very special offer for weekly intelligence briefings, 2 months free membership, and all you have to do is purchase a sensitive documentary collection of videos titled Ruto Dark Secrets, which reveals a lot of sensitive stuff, which will help you understand our current politics better, stuff that I cannot talk about on this open channel. I believe you can see details on your screens right now. Go for it and grab this amazing documentary, even as you're able to get access to my weekly intelligence briefings, right from number 1 to the current number 91, WIB number 91, which is just packed with information that I was not able to carry on this public channel. And this offer is just, only $6. Imagine. What can you purchase with that today? That's all you need to get this valuable documentary and all the WIBs I've ever published, including the latest. And of course, 2 months free pass, free membership to my WIBs, especially the future ones. There's even one cooking, should be out very soon. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.